Cosplayers of Reddit, what is the cringiest interaction you've had at an event? Was cosplaying Black Cat from Spider-Man. It was a very tight and form-fitting costume and I opted not to wear underwear because you could very clearly see the lines in the costume if I did. Had a guy come up behind me and unzip my suit, which wouldn't have been so bad if the zipper didn't go all the way down to the bottom of my ass. For about 10 seconds my paled back, and as was very much exposed. Edit, spelling edit of the edit, removed the photo links. I witnessed a pedoba cosplay throw a little girl over his shoulder and run off. Little girl was fine, but later told me, and the group we'd been dancing with she didn't know the guy. So that's pretty. Yeah. So I went to my first con a few years ago. I wasn't brave enough to dress up, so I wanted to take pics etc. I saw a really amazing Doctor Who cosplay, so I asked him for a hug and pic. He was really enthusiastic about it, and we had a pic ready to go, until I heard a gruff hurry up, other people want a hug too. This large middle-aged lady in a tight-ass tank top was giving us this glare. Legit, the cosplayer went from happy to miserable as soon as we took a pic. Like, holy cow, the cosplayers aren't props, they're people. Demand physical contact, you have to ask. He definitely didn't give up a hug for her. This year he'll be doing a dress up cosplay, and I hope that'll be fine. Cringy and hilarious. So at my first con I was dressed as Silk Spectre second, comic book version. I was still using my cane, because I was only a year out from my accident and this guy decides that obviously I'm his one true love or something, and I'm not able to hustle away fast enough to escape easily. I lose him a few times, but he keeps popping up hitting on me and making comments about how I should have been Silk Spectre. This is at least 2 or 3 hours of this Romeo following me around. Well, somehow I managed to lose him, and I end up asking this beefy old dude if he minds that I take the unoccupied chair at his table, since my hips and legs are acting up. Half an hour later we're chatting and having a good old time when my Romeo shows up. Romeo looks at me. Romeo looks at beefy old guy. Beefy old guy looks at me, and I guess I must look scared or creeped out or something, because beefy old guy just stands up and leans real close to Romeo's face and says, "Can I help you with something?" Romeo freaks off. I eventually get up and walk away. When the table gets busy, glance at the banner above the table as I walk away. Beefy old guy was Laufirigno. Went to a con as Zuko from Avatar. An uncosplayer approached me excitedly to talk about the show, but after 10 minutes, pulled out his phone and wanted me to read their X-rated Avatar /Katara FYI fanfic. Proceeded to tell me how long has been working on the fic, and how he was planning out the rest of the story to have books like the show itself. This thing looked to be novel length by this point. I politely excused myself and left, but this guy found me on FB later on and sends me NSFW Avatar fan art every now and then. Ugh. Had small cake pieces with me for friends, carried it in an open plastic box in my hands. In the tram to the convention I met an older lady. We started talking about my costume and why all these funny looking people are here for and so on. While I explained it to her, she was suddenly looking for something in her handbag, pulled out a small plastic spoon, and helped herself with my cake while listening to me. I was too confused to say anything and let her finish. I even jumped out of the tram a station earlier because I was worried about more cake being eat. Weird story, but looking back now I should have offered her more. I don't know what it takes to make you eat a stranger's cake in a tram without asking first if you can have some. Few years back my then girlfriend was cosplaying Chell from Portal at a con. It was mostly great. Everyone and their mom wanted a photo with her, except this one guy who decided to grill her on how much she really knew about Portal. He was looking at her like he'd just found a unicorn, but she was pissed as hell that some stranger thought she needed to prove herself to him. I think he thought he was flirting. I was cosplaying as Red X from Teen Titans, and I had this 16-year-old girl dressed as Raven follow me around and try and get me to kiss her all day long. I was 20 at the time. Edit, I didn't kiss her BTW. I have never had to use Google so much in one thread. I was dressed as Edward Elric. Friend was dressed as Envy from FMA. The show was still super popular back then, and glomping was a thing. Some girl ran up behind me at top speed and jumped on my back, and I'm tall, not short like Ed, and bashed me into a table and brought me to my knees. It was horribly embarrassing and painful. More funny than cringy, but my husband doesn't really attend cons anymore because he feels he's too old for them. Before he stopped going, we attended an AM Central in 2002 in Chicago. We passed by a group of Harry Potter cosplayers wearing striped scarves, and my husband turned to me and said, "It's good to know kids still like Doctor Who." Some girl asks me to sing a duet in the karaoke room, which I agree to. 30 seconds in, and I realize that it's some anime song that is sung in Japanese, and it's 8 minutes long. Longest and most cringiest 8 minutes of my life, while butchering the Japanese language in front of an audience. Not really cosplay, but at the midnight showing of the last Harry Potter movie I was dressed in a Slytherin shirt with a house scarf. I was standing with some friends and some girl came up to me and said I was everything that was wrong in this world. I asked what she was talking about and she yelled, "Anyone who truly likes Slytherin is a bane on humanity." I just stared as her friends took her away. At Anime Match Surrey last month, I was cosplaying as Prompto with my friend as Noctis. A much younger Noctis cosplayer, they looked to be about 13 to 14, whereas we're in our mid-20s, came up to us and said their Prompto really wanted to meet us. We followed this Noctis cosplayer over to their group of friends, introduced ourselves to the other Prompto, took some selfies, had some laughs. Apparently, the kids felt super comfortable around us because they then proceeded to pull out their sketchbooks and show us the explicit fan art they drawn, while loudly describing each pornographic scene in detail. Needless to say, my friend and I exchanged a look of abject horror and hightailed it out of there, torn between feeling utterly skeevy and biting down the urge to call their mothers. Obviously, there are kids who wander into the NSFW side of fandom. I'm sure we all had our instances of saying we were 18 plus when prompted to on F, net, LJ, etc. back in the day, but to have literal children showing me the pronoun they drew in real life was positively jarring. Edit, grammar. I have a friend who cosplayed a Homestuck character back in 2012. I can't remember which, but I know it was a troll. Anyway, that author of the comic was present at the convention, so the fans were out in droves, and Rabbit too. So we're walking around, and she keeps getting attacked by a bunch of kids who can't be older than 14. We're 18 over 19, so we obviously know how to sap. People hit her with prop weapons, come up and try to tackle her, ask for kisses, flirt, and one even tried feeling her up. This all culminates with some bozo dressed like a juggalo hitting her over the head with a bowling pin and breaking the horns she had made for the event. Needless to say, she's furious and excuses herself to the bathroom. A few minutes later she's back, having dumped her horns, jacket, contacts, and wiped the face paint off. We spent the rest of the day in a foul mood. The next day we heard that a bunch of Homestuck graffiti had been found in the surrounding area and the convention had to move hotels next year. Oh, and Deadpools. They're all awful. I cosplayed as Haru from the Anime Free, and somebody came up to me and asked to, and I quote, "put my bishy clock in her." Went with a Comic Con with my girlfriend, who was dressed as Black Canary, I was Green Arrow. Naturally some people asked for pictures of us / with us. Alright, cool, no big deal. What was weird were the amount of guys that wanted a picture of just her. One guy even came up, asked if he could take a picture with us, and after we agreed, he handed me the camera. Oh, okay, I see what this is. But the cringiest moment was this one guy, maybe 20 years older than us. He asked for a picture of her, was used to it at this point so it's whatever, then proceeds to spend a good 60 seconds taking the photo. I don't know if he was taking multiple photos, or trying to get the perfect bob pic, or what, but ain't no way it takes you a full minute to take a single photo on a cell phone. Still, the day was super fun, and hopefully we get a chance to go back in the future. I dressed as Rose Quartz from Steven Universe, and a neckbeard type guy sort of dressed as a character from the same show approached me by coming up right behind me and said "Rose my waifu" while I was talking to a vendor. He had the greasiest hair I have ever seen and really bad B.O. He asked for a pic, and I said okay, and then he asked to pose with me kissing his cheek, and I said no. He got upset and said that I had to because he loved Rose blah 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 and I didn't know how to disengage. Funnily enough, a Pearl cosplayer intervened and told him to beat it. I dressed as Junkrat for a con. At the time I had no idea how many kids played Overwatch. So for the entire day all I got was 10-year-olds shouting references and wanting photos with me and their parents giving me strange looks. All the Homestuck cosplayers wandering around in a giant group making fun of other cosplayers. I cosplayed Frankenfurter from the Rocky Horror Picture Show at a Comic Con about a year ago. I had a lot of pleasant interactions with other cosplayers during the day. Lots of "Ooh, I love that movie, hey do the time warp" sort of conversations. A few people hit on me. I'm a woman in fishnets and a corset at a Comic Con. That was expected. Nothing too weird or uncomfortable. And then there was this one dude and his friend. They kept following me around, talking to me about weirdly personal topics, and getting far too handsy. Eventually I started to get nervous, so I excused myself to the bathroom. I just wanted to distance myself from them a little. As I go to leave, the guy goes, "Wait, before you go, can I get a picture?" Okay, fine. Just take a photo then leave me alone. So the guy grabs me, picks me up, throws me over his shoulder so my ass is sticking up in the air in fishnets and bikini bottoms, and his buddy takes a picture. Then he drops me back on the ground and the two guys take off. It all happened in about 10 seconds, so I barely had time to react. Some guy dressed as Deadpool helped me up and walked me to the security booth to report the guys, but nothing ever came of it. So weird, cringy, and terrifying. I don't cosplay Frank anymore. TL. Doctor dressed up like Tim Curry got my butt aggressively photographed. Oh man. Myself and a few friends occasionally go to local cons just to hang out, drink, and buy some merch. But I'll never forget a local con in early fall of 2008. We usually never went in cosplay, but Gurren Lagann was still in a fever pitch of popularity at the time, and one of my friends was really big on it and went dressed as Kamina, while the rest of us still went in regular clothes. It is worth noting that said particular friend is a decent looking 6'4" fellow and was training for marathon running at the time, so he pulled off a pretty damn good Kamina. It turned into a day from nerd hell. From the moment we walked into the main hall he was assaulted nearly every manner by girl and guy alike. Tons of people wanted pictures with him, or of him posing. Endless pictures. And countless times random girls and a couple guys would run out of nowhere and jump onto him. Which resulted more often than not him nearly dragged to the ground by these random attackers. I can actually still to this day remember one girl screaming "Kamina-san, I love you," as she flung herself at my friend. He did his damnedest to be nice/friendly for pictures, while the rest of us spent more time acting as impromptu bodyguards for him than enjoying the convention. Needless to say he doesn't care much to cosplay these days. The only time I ever cosplayed, I cosplayed one of the Love Live character school uniforms: blazer, white dress shirt, and really short skirt. Literally 5 minutes after showing up to the convention, I turned around on the escalator and caught the dude behind me trying to look up my skirt. I used to cosplay a few years back. I went to a Comic Con cosplaying as a character from my favorite series, Mahou Sensei Nejima, which means I was in a generic schoolgirl outfit. I was actually at Spike Spencer's artist table, just having a conversation with him and his bodyguard fangirling on the inside, when this rando comes up to me and asks for a pic. Sure, why not? I'll tell you why not. As soon as I step away from the table, this guy gets so close to me that I could smell his breath and says, "You have some really nice bobies, did you know that?" Now, I'm 51 and 100 pounds, while this guy was a good foot taller than me and overweight. This guy pissed me off so bad that my reaction was to push him with strength I never knew I had, which made him stumble backwards and into the table behind him. I looked pissed as all hell. Guy looked shocked and confused before he speed walked away. I had a guy take stealth pictures of my feet. It was super obvious by how close he was to me, how he paused whenever I paused, and the way his camera was angled and how he held it. I got security to talk to him, and turns out he was taking pics of other girls' feet too. There was another time when a guy asked for a picture with me, and when posing he literally cut my butt with his hand. I was too shocked/scared to say anything, but nowadays I won't let that happen. When I was in college, I went to a small cosplay event wearing a cardboard box that says Gundam on it. This middle-aged suburban mom stopped me and looked to her fedora wearing college-age son and asked him in an almost baby voice, "Do you wanna take a picture with the Gundam?" I agreed to it, but I felt like a birthday party mascot getting a picture with the kids. Except this kid was about my age. Further back, in high school, my at the time girlfriend and I went to a cosplay gathering. I made some comment about Macross Frontier, it's a show about pretty boys and giant robots or something along those lines. I still haven't finished that show. And then some neckbud with 10 years on us felt the need to sit down by us, whip out his laptop, and pull up 4chan to school us on Metroanim. I wore a pair of Persicameres from the manga/anime chobits to a convention in high school. For people that don't know, a Persicam is a computer shaped like a person, usually designed to look like girls. They range from actual people size to tiny doll size. Anyways, I had an older guy approach me, tug on one of the ears, and ask if I was one of the sexual pleasure models. Snicker and was wondering aloud if I felt like a real girl. Yes, the series does mention this aspect, but I never expected anyone to make such a comment to 15-year-old me. I wasn't even in a costume other than the ears. I was wearing the Savior's hide armor from Skyrim at a convention when this fanboy, imagine the type, hefty, kinda sweaty, wearing a t-shirt has probably owned since the late 90s, asked me for a photo of the costume and asked what it was. I replied that it was Savior's hide, the werewolf armor from Skyrim. As I said, so I pointed to the wolf face that makes up the cuirass. He wasn't satisfied with this answer and replied, "Oh yeah, a dragon head. Your armor totally looks like a dragon head. It's based on a wolf actually. The quest is about a werewolf. Really though, it's a dragon head. Oh. Okay." My girlfriend and I do Cosmo and Wanda from the Fairly Odd Parents. Pretty simple cosplays, and I was super excited. The GF gets nervous in large crowds, so we stayed on the outskirts of the crowd for the most part. A lot of people asked for photos, and we had a pretty good time. During the end of the day the GF is getting tired, and so we relax in a chair. She sat in my lap, since the chair was small, in the lobby of the hotel. Classic neckbud comes up to us and makes it very clear that he is interested in a threesome and propositions us, even though we state multiple times that we are in an exclusive monogamous relationship. After denying his offers multiple times and him not getting the hint, I fake a call from a friend and claim that Artemi Cosplayer is looking for us. We have to go, and we promptly found a new place to relax on the other side of the con. I don't know, just the extremely obnoxiousness of it all. I went to NakaCon a couple years in a row. Now I was a super cool goth kid, so I have plenty to cringe over in my past, but those kids take the freaking cake. A guy cosplayed as Majin Buu with a think antenna thing on his head. This guy had a pink beanie with the antenna. He kept taking the beanie off and running up to people and pretend to jam it up everyone's ass. He made farting and screaming noises each time until he was finally thrown out. People started hogging the elevators and having many parties in them. This forced people to use the stairs, and one cosplayer fell down a flight really big high heels and needed help, but couldn't get any because everyone was trying to use the freaking elevators. All of the Solid Snake cosplayers wore the box disguise and people would chase them and glomp them. Their boxes always got Brock. It's okay I shoot a glomp a friend. When they know what you're doing, it's never okay to glomp a stranger. These are some of the worst, and why I don't go to anime conventions anymore. / Currently manning a table at Balticon. I was in costume yesterday as Baron Saturday. I'm a female, and I was feeling pretty good in my costume, but a neckbud came by to talk to my friend who he knew, and in the middle of their convo he caught my eye and threw me the sleaziest wink I've ever seen. After he left, my friend told me he's in an open relationship and that he and his girlfriend have orgies at nearly every con they work. I try to avoid him, but he stops by our table a lot. Edit, added an ending. OMG, I still have chills to this day. So around 2 years ago I was at a pretty large anime convention, and this guy came up to me and asked for a photo. Anyone who's been to a con knows this is perfectly normal, but it was how he wanted me to pose that creeped me out. I gave him my standard photography pose, but he was like, actually, can you sit on the floor for this photo? I was a bit confused, but didn't really question it, and did as he said. It wasn't until he was crouching down with me and asking me to take off my shoes that I realized he was trying to take pictures of girls' feet for his foot fetish. At that time I was underage 17, and it still gives me chills to this day to think I cold ended up in his fetish folder, or worse, on some shady site without my knowledge or consent. Cosplayed as the Quantum Ranger at Power Morphicon. I'm a girl. Has in the background of some of my pictures, just staring at me. I finally got rid of him after he kept shoving his astromorpher in my face by telling him I had to at home. I feel bad for the guys, he has obvious mental problems, but he was ultra creepy.